Let me give you a real world example of letting my kid tell me no. Hey friends, if you have been here before, I welcome you back. If you are new here, then hello, nice to meet you. My name is Euphoria. I am a stay-at-home mom of 2 children, and I love to share my tips, tricks, and experiences that I've gathered throughout this motherhood journey so far. So today, we were actually just gonna jump right into our topic because there's a lot to discuss, and it's something that we could probably all use a little help in. So let's just get into it. Before I had kids, I remember just going to the grocery store and judging so hard when I would see children just running amok and throwing fits left and right. But now I know the truth. Tantrums are something that cannot be avoided no matter what kind of parent you are. Tantrums are a means of communication for your child, and until they can figure out how to communicate their needs with words, then this is what we have to work with. So this is something that I've honestly researched so much just because it's been very difficult to manage in our lives. My son Jude, he started doing like the textbook tantrums at around 18 months, and as he got older, they just got stronger and stronger. I was honestly just getting by in the beginning, doing whatever I thought would help him listen and not freak out. But then as things carried on, I started to notice that I was just doing things that I honestly swore that I wouldn't do as a parent. So it really started to just affect me mentally, and I just knew that I needed to figure something else out because this is not how I wanted to be with my kid. So I also began starting to dread having to tell him no for things. So telling him no, and also telling him like it's time to get out of the bath, it's time to brush your teeth, it's time to go to bed, like literally anything, you name it. Everything was a struggle, and it was really hard to just overcome that. So we introduced our second child when Jude was about 2.5 years old, and that's honestly when the peak of everything happened. Just that huge shift, just it took him over the edge. He was pretty much doing, we'll get into it, but it was definitely very difficult, and honestly, I did not know what happened to him, but I did know that I wanted to change something because the things that we were trying to implement weren't working, and I knew that I needed to do something more to help with this whole situation. I wanted to go about disciplining my child in a positive way so he could actually take those experiences and use them productively in his life now and in the future. I wanted something that was going to respect him while also teaching him to respect others by respecting me. And that's when I found these accounts here. Big Little Feelings especially resonated with me because these women actually teach you how to handle a tantrum while also holding your boundaries. From there, I just started implementing my findings, and I'm honestly astonished at the progress that we've made so far. And now I want to actually talk to you guys about what I do to prevent the tantrums that I can prevent, and what I do during the ones that I'm not able to prevent, and then what we do after. So yeah, let's do that. So prevention is always top of mind for me because if my child's happy, then everybody else can be happy, you know? So I know that you cannot prevent every single tantrum. There's some tantrums that are just gonna happen inevitably, but I have noticed that there's a lot of things that I can pay attention to that do help with preventing the frustration just throughout the day. So the first and probably the most important thing that I've noticed that I do with him is to give him choices and also give him some control. Instead of saying, you're going to use this blue cup right here or this blue plate, I'll ask, do you want to use the blue plate or do you want to use the green plate? And it seems kind of like, you know, why does it matter? But I mean, everything matters to a toddler. Everything is a big deal. So giving him a choice actually makes him feel like he has some sort of say in his day. And it's really helped change a lot of things since I've been implementing that more. I've noticed that toddlers literally seem like they don't want anything but independence, and kind of just giving it to them, letting them start to do things on their own. And just even if it gets messy, even if things don't end up being done the right way, just giving them that control really does kind of satisfy something in their day and just make them feel like they're equipped to take on their life and be independent. So that's honestly helped a lot with Jude. He's very strong-willed, and if your child is strong-willed, I honestly suggest, if you're not doing this already, that you try this, because honestly, it could change your world. Hearing your child say no to you could definitely be triggering, but if we take our ego and just put it aside for a second, then we could honestly understand that, of course, our child isn't going to want to do every single thing that we say. Like, they're not going to want to listen to us sometimes, and that's honestly just human nature if you truly think about it. Now, Jude will often say that he doesn't want to eat dinner. Before, I would literally just say, you're going to eat dinner. This is what I made you. You're going to eat. And naturally, it would just end up in a fight. So, yeah, we don't do that anymore. Now, if he says, I don't want to eat, then I'll simply just say, okay, you don't have to eat right now, but this is the food that I made you. So it'll be here when you get hungry. And that's it. If you're not used to saying that, it could definitely be a little cringy at first, just letting your kids say no. But 10 times out of 10, if I approach the situation in that way with him, he will eat his food literally within probably 10 minutes. I think he kind of just wants to know that he can say no and he has that power to say no. So honestly, I just give it to him, because eventually he's going to need to say no to somebody, and he's going to need to know that he's allowed to say no. I've also learned that at the end of the day, even though they want to kind of pick their own things and do their own thing, they know 100% that you are the parent and that you know best. So they're definitely willing to take your word for it at the end of the day. They just want to play their cards and they want to test the waters and test all that stuff. So yeah, it's fine. So the next thing that I always make sure of is that my child is well rested, well fed, and also occupied, because those three are the things that are the easiest to spot when he starts to like act a little different, and I'm noticing that he's showing the cues that a tantrum is brewing. So I always make sure to ask him if he's hungry, if he's tired, or if he's bored, because one of those three things are most likely happening when he starts to kind of just go off the deep end. Now, speaking on boredom specifically, you kind of just have to get creative with this one. I'll let him try to fold a blanket, or I'll give him a spray bottle to just go outside with and spray everything. And honestly, it's amazing how occupied they can be by doing something that mundane. You would think that it wouldn't occupy them at all, but honestly, it gets the job done. I also limit screen time, and that's another thing that has helped tremendously with avoiding and preventing those tantrums. My kid does not do well with watching a lot of TV and being on any sort of electronics, so I honestly limit it as much as I can. Now, of course, we have days to where I need to get things done, and that's just a simple way to keep him entertained if he's run out of like energy or creativity with playing with his toys and all that stuff, and I just need to get something done. Spending one-on-one time is another important thing that I've started implementing more with him, and that's also what I do to limit screen time. So we will build Legos, we'll read, we'll go outside, we'll play with his cars. We'll pretty much just do anything, and I try to stay as present as possible, like no phones, no TV, just being present with him and in the moment and letting him just play. So I know that I stay at home. I'm a stay-at-home mom, so You're kind of probably wondering why would you feel like you don't spend time with your kids? But I'm doing a lot of stuff during the day and I just find myself becoming distracted, and Jude definitely is aware of this. I'll just kind of go through my schedule and I'll just get everything that I need to get done, and I won't stop and actually be present with him. And when I'm making a conscious decision to do that and just consciously reminding myself that I need to sit down and take the time to do that, it does make a really huge difference. So the last thing that I want to mention for preventing a tantrum is setting a timer. Now, this is another really huge thing that I got from Big Little Feelings, and it's honestly worked so well. When I would tell him, okay, we have to do this, or okay, it's time to leave, and not really give him a warning, he would honestly just spiral out of control. He did not like to stop what he was doing and do what I wanted to do. So this is something that changed everything for me. How I implement this is, say he's taking a bath, for example. I will set a timer for 10 minutes and say, Jude, we have 10 more minutes in the bath. Mommy set a timer. So when that timer goes off, then it's time to get out of the bath. So you have 10 minutes to play and do whatever you want. So the only time that I found that this really doesn't work is when he's overly tired. So now I want to jump into what I do during a tantrum. So the first thing that I do is to regulate my own emotions. So I just sit and I take a few seconds, take a deep breath, and really remind myself that the way that I approach this situation is either going to make it easier or harder for me. So the next thing that I do is acknowledge his feelings. Big Little Feelings actually has a really great script that I've used, and it's very simple. So, for example, he's upset because we have to leave the house. I will say, I understand that you're upset. It's okay to be upset, but we have to leave the house now. So this teaches them to put a name to their feelings, and this has already helped Jude in recognizing his own feelings and being able to communicate them to me now. So the next thing that I do is I give him some space, but I don't shut him out either. So we don't actually use timeouts, and I also don't force him to sit with me either. I let him choose how he wants to kind of deal with his emotion, if that's going into his room and having a break, or if he does need to sit with me and he needs me to give him a hug or something. I let him decide how he wants to deal with his emotions, but I do let him feel it, and I let him do that with whatever space he wants me to provide to him. With that being said, it kind of works hand in hand with giving him space. I also just let him regulate through the emotion, of course with my support, but I try not to do anything that's going to try to push it away. I want him to be able to feel his emotions and know that it's okay for him to feel his emotions. And I don't want him to feel like he has to suppress his emotions around me. I want him to be able to feel comfortable with feeling a certain way with me, or feeling a certain way with his dad, anyone, and knowing that it's okay to feel that way. And then I also let him know that I'm right here when he needs me, or if he needs to talk, or if he needs a hug, I'm gonna be right here for him. I'm working really hard on trying to not let my ego get in the way when it comes to him being upset or being frustrated or even just lashing out in certain ways, only because I really don't want him to feel like he has to hide his emotions or he has to feel shameful for having a certain emotion. What I'm really trying to teach him is how to regulate those emotions and how to go about feeling those emotions. I want to give you an example of the way that I would actually implement this if we were out, because I know I gave you guys a lot of examples of when we're inside and it's easy to just, do these things easier, I guess. But I want to give you an example of how I've used this outside to just let you know that it can be done outside as well. So we'll talk about the park. Jude does not like to leave the park usually. So we're gonna have a scenario. I set the timer for 5 minutes. I let Jude know, okay, Jude, I've set a timer for 5 minutes. So you have 5 minutes to just play and do whatever you want. And then after that, we're going to go home and we're going to eat some lunch. It'll be time to leave. So 5-minute timer goes off and he does not even look over at me to like show that he noticed or heard it, even though I know that he heard it. So what I do first is check myself, regulate myself, tell myself that I know this is probably not, it may not go the right way, but who knows, give him the benefit of the doubt and just, okay, we're gonna check ourselves. Okay, we're good. We're gonna be positive. We're gonna be upbeat. Let's do this. So next, I will go up to him and I'll get down on his level and I will tell him, Jude, your timer went off, so it's time to leave now. Then naturally, he will say, no, I don't want to leave. And he will immediately start crying. So I will continue to have a very calm, just kind of unbothered voice, and I will say, I understand that you're upset because you were having fun and you don't want to leave the park, but it's time to go now. We are going to go and get some lunch. So do you want to have pasta or do you want to have a sandwich for lunch? And then he'll choose pasta and we'll all live happily ever after, Or he will say, no, I don't want to eat lunch and continue to cry. And in that case, I will say, I know you do not want to leave. I know that you're upset because you're having fun, but it's time to go now. Do you want to go down the slide to get down or do you want to jump to get down? So usually that would honestly be the end of it most times because, when you gotta give them choices between jumping off something and sliding down something, of course, that usually clears it up and we're on to the next situation. But in the beginning of our journey, it definitely wouldn't have ended there. He for sure would have still said no, and I would resort to, I understand you're upset and you don't want to leave the park, but your timer went off and it's time to go now. So do you want me to pick you up and carry you or do you want to walk by yourself? So by this time, my blood is definitely boiling, but I'm still trying to keep it chill because I know that if I break, then he's going to go off. So usually at that point, even in the beginning of our journey, he would say, yes, I want to walk, and we would have been done. But just for the sake of what I would do next, if he did say no and he still was crying and still didn't want to leave, didn't answer me, then I would say, okay, mommy's going to pick you up. And then I would pick him up and he would be fighting in my arms, but we would still just keep going and I will just continue to say it's okay that you're upset and I'll just give him that time honestly to just relax and just chill for a little bit. And most of the time he will kind of feel my calm and just how I'm not really having a huge response to the way he's acting. By the time we have walked a few feet away, he is already starting to calm down. And then we honestly just move on. So now I want to talk about what I do after the tantrum. I mean, this is kind of still in the middle of it. He hasn't kind of completely gotten over the whole situation, but he is able to talk to me. So the first thing I'll do is ask him how he's feeling and why. And I do this just to try to teach him how to be self-aware and be able to just identify his own emotions without me having to tell him. And then I will ask him what he needs from me. And that's just honestly to show him that I'm here and I'm ready and available to help him through his situations. If this tantrum came about because he threw something or maybe he hit someone, then I would reiterate his feelings and then say, I understand that you're feeling upset, but it's not okay to hit people. I've definitely found with Jude that it is very difficult to have any of those conversations while he's having the tantrum. So when I'm really trying to get him to understand the situation, we do it when he's more calm. Then I will ask if he needs another hug, and then we just move on. It's completely done. I try not to hold any negative feelings towards the whole situation or anything like that. We just move on. We start a new chapter and just move forward. And then of course, wait for the next one. So the biggest reason why I do things this way is because I really, really want to teach him how to take ownership for his own emotions and be able to regulate his own feelings. I know that even as adults, I mean myself included, I have definitely struggled with being able to regulate my own feelings. I mean, you see grown adults having tantrums and just being upset about things and throwing fits, and it just honestly shows that if you don't get that kind of treatment when you're a kid, it never leaves you. So I think that showing that they can regulate their own emotions can really help in the long run, because he's not going to let anybody else take responsibility for the things that he feels, because he knows that he can regulate however he feels and it's no one else's job, it's his own. So what's changed in my life since starting to implement these things is big emotions still happen, but we have really learned how to just work through them so much better. Another big thing is Jude has honestly been able to skip the whole process of the crying and the yelling and the hitting and the throwing, and has been able to go right to him telling me what he needs from me and how he feels, and we're able to just kind of like go from there and resolve his problem without having all of that craziness. Now that was a lot, but as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I have just done a lot of research and have become extremely passionate about this. Jude has responded so well to this new process, and I've honestly already started implementing naming emotions with my 10-month-old. So I hope that you actually gathered something from this and you're able to implement some of these things with your children. I am going to list every single resource that I mentioned and that I've shown in this video, and I highly, highly recommend that you go and check them out. So if this video was helpful for you, then please make sure that you give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are not already. We would love to have you here. And if you hit that little notification bell, then you will never miss a video with me. And if you are looking for even more, then please come and join me on Instagram at Euphoria the Cool Mom. And I've also just posted a video on potty training if you would like to check that one out as well. So before I go, I want to ask you guys to leave a comment down below telling me what your biggest struggle has been with your toddler. I would love to just see some encouragement and some support just here with our community. It would be really amazing. But yeah, that is all for today. You guys got this. You guys got this. I will see you guys in the next video.